Hello, lovely people. First of all, many, many thanks to all of you who replied to my last video when I was asking you what sorts of videos you would like to see in this channel, what might be useful or helpful or interesting for you. And given that several of you replied by saying that they would love to see basically Sanskrit texts analyzed, so me telling you a little bit about the words that are in them, the forms that these words appear in and everything, and then at the end putting the text back together, I thought that I'd start with that. But before I do that, I would like to briefly apologize that it's taken me so very long to get back to you. And the reason for that is that I was working on the manuscript of my Sanskrit reader, which is hopefully going to come out at some point later this year. And the reader is the continuation of my introductory Sanskrit textbook, which I think a fair number of you know. And I've just submitted the manuscript to the publisher, and it's hopefully going to come out September or October or something like that. So just as a heads up. And the text, or rather the verse that I want us to look at together today is actually a very small quote taken from that reader. Oh, I say quote, it is in the reader, but it is a quote from the Ramayana. For those of you who don't know the Ramayana, it's the story of Prince Rama. Ramayana literally translates as Rama's journey, or even more literally, Rama's goings. And in this story, in this text, in the Ramayana, Rama's wife Sita is abducted, and Rama obviously wants, to find her, wants her back. But there's a problem. The rainy season is about to start. And so Rama cannot do what he wants to do, which is basically move heaven and earth to find Sita again. Instead, he is stuck in one place and needs to just wait until the rainy season is over. And then he does move heaven and earth to find Sita, pretty much. If you are at all like me, so, grown up in Europe, lived in the US, rain for you is probably something like a bit of a nuisance. It's when it's rainy, when it's wet outside and the sky isn't properly bright, and it's not really something that most of us, or that many of us, like. And I'm sure the same applies, everywhere. Rain can be a nuisance, can be a hindrance, such as to Rama. But in India, if it weren't for the rainy season, the land would basically be pretty much barren. It wouldn't have the moisture that it needs to have anything growing, and therefore of sustaining any life that lives by eating plants or that lives among plants. And so the beginning of the rainy season is something that is basically, that is hugely welcomed, that people rejoice over, and that nature itself also is said to rejoice over, no matter whether you want to ascribe feelings to animals or to plants. But you can see that now there's all sorts of things that they can do again. Plants will grow, animals don't suffer from the heat so much anymore, everything gets cooler, life basically returns. And so the verse that I want us to look at today, let me just quickly share it, is, as I say, from the Ramayana. For those of you who want to look it up, this is book 4, chapter 27, verse 24. And it reads as follows: Vahanti, Varshanti, Nadanti, Bhanti, Dhyayanti, Nirtyanti, Samashvasanti, Nadyo, Ghana, Matagajja, Wanantach, Priya, Vihinach, Śikhariṇī, Plavangach. And I've also given it to you in transliteration. First of all, I know that for some of you that's easier. And also the custom, if you wrote down anything in Sanskrit for the longest time, was that you'd simply use whatever script you would use, whatever alphabet, whatever syllabary you would use to write down your own everyday language. The sort of fixed association between Sanskrit and Devanagari only came about, I think, around sort of 200, 250 years ago. So given that I normally write in the Latin alphabet, when I write my own language or own languages, here I am basically following a custom that is much older than this strict association of Sanskrit and Devanagari. And so that is the reason why I feel comfortable also giving you transliteration right here as well. And so let us look at these individual words. We begin with vahanti, which is the third person plural, present indicative active of a verb meaning to go, to travel, to move. And I just gave you lots of lingo there, which for some of you is completely familiar, but for others it may not be. So let me just briefly say, there are several kinds of information that the Sanskrit verb expresses, such as what a person the verb stands in. We have first, second, third. First is I, second is you, so me addressing someone, and third person is me talking about someone else. And we have those in several numbers. The here we've got the plural. Plural simply means it's several. Singular is one, dual is two, plural means it's more than two, it's several. So third person plural simply means, oops, that was not planned. And it simply means they. Present tense means it's happening now, as opposed to in the past or the future. The Sanskrit verb has several different tenses with which to express present, past, and the future, and what we've got here is the present. Then we have the indicative mood. Mood is a linguistic technical term that basically describes what kind of an action we are looking at, what kind of a statement the verb is making. And the indicative basically tells us we're looking at something that is the case, as opposed to something that should, could, or might, or ought to be, which would be expressed in the potential mood, or something that I'm telling you, that I'm commanding you to do, which would be the imperative. And then finally, we have the active voice. Voice, once again, is a technical linguistic term. The active describes someone who does something, and the passive, which is the counterpart of the active, describes that something is done to someone. So active, you do, or something, someone does. Passive, something is done. I see, active. I am seen, passive. And here we have a verb that is active. Then we follow up with another verb, also in the third person plural, present indicative active. And this is the third plural of the verb meaning to reign, so they reign. Then another verb, also third plural, present indicative active. And actually, if you look ahead, you can see that all of the words in this first line, they're all verbs. And I'll say something about that at the end. Nadanti, nad means to sound or to sound loudly, to thunder. And you'll see in a moment why I suggest that here we should translate this particular loud sound as to trumpet. Then bhanti means to shine, to gleam. In certain circumstances, it can also mean to look like, to appear like. But here it's basically, being gleaming, shining, brilliant. Dhyayanti means means to contemplate or to brood, and so here we have they contemplate, they brood. Nrityanti, they dance. Some ashwasanti, literally this means to breathe, again to breathe, something like breathe a sigh of relief, and so breathing is here a sign of relief, of taking courage, of being relaxed, of being happy, of rejoicing. So we've got all these verbs, but fortunately there's another line, and this line begins with nadyo, which is the sandhid form of nadyach, which is the nominative plural of nadi, river. First of all, when I say this is the sandhid form of something, sandhi is a Sanskrit phenomenon. Well, no, actually it's a phenomenon that we have in lots of languages. Sandhi just means putting together, literally. And it's the fact that when you put words together in a sentence, their pronunciation may change slightly depending on what word follows, what the first sound of that next word is. And Sanskrit is different from other languages in that whenever the pronunciation of a word changes, Sanskrit actually reflects that in writing. So we have Sandhi as a pronunciation phenomenon in English and in many other languages, but in English you don't write those changes down. You know, the word is written the same every time. In Sanskrit, those pronunciation changes are written down. And so here we have this word nadyo, which is actually one Sandhi variant for nadyach, which is the nominative plural of nadi, meaning river. And when I say nominative plural, again, more linguistic lingo, the nominative is a case, and case as a grammatical term is something that indicates the role that a noun plays in a sentence. And here we've got the nominative case, and the nominative case tells us that something is the subject of a phrase or of a sentence, and subject basically means it's kind of the topic, it's what the sentence is about, or what it focuses on. And plural number, that's the same that we just encountered with a verb. We've got singular, dual, and plural, and singular expresses just one, dual expresses exactly two, and plural expresses that we've got more than two, so that we've got many. And so what we just had here, nadyach, is then rivers in the plural. Then ghana, the second word, is the Sandhi form of ghanach, also nominative plural of ghana, which can refer to anything massive, anything big. And here from the context, we can tell that it has to mean clouds, big rain clouds, the kind of clouds that you have when the rainy season finally is there. Then we have mata gajja, which is actually a compound noun, consisting of mata, which means mad or intoxicated. And the second word is gajja, which means elephant. And when we use mata together with gajja, then this is not just any elephant who is mad, but specifically this usually refers to elephants who are in heat, who are in rut, so who are basically looking for a mate. And here we have mata gajja. This is, for those of you who know more about compounds, this is a karmadharaya compound. So these are elephants that are in rut. Then we have another compound, wanantach, which is the nominative plural of wana anta, which literally means the antas, the ends of the wana, of the forest. So this is a tatpurusha compound. And the ends of the forest is basically, you know, the regions, the parts of the forest. These are forest regions, woodlands, or you can simply also translate them as forests, if you like. There's, as far as I can tell, not a fundamental difference. The next word is another compound, priya vihina, again in the nominative plural, priya vihinach. And vihina means without or lacking or deprived of. And priya is the feminine form of priya, which means dear. And so priya vihina is someone who is deprived of their grammatically feminine dear one, so of their girlfriend, of their beloved, of their sweetheart. Then shikinach is another a nominative plural of shikin, meaning peacock. It's one of several words that Sanskrit has for peacock. And then the last word is once again a compound, plawam ga, which literally means one who goes, plawam, by jumping. So this is a jump goer, and that is one of the many words that Sanskrit uses for monkey. Because, you know, what is the locomotion of a monkey like? You know, they can run, of course, yeah, but, you know, they can jump quite far. And plawangach now is again the nominative plural of that form. So we've just been looking at lots and lots of verbs, and then they're followed up by lots and lots of nouns. And so when we put all of these together, we basically have they flow, they rain. Sorry, this shouldn't say they sing, this should say they sound loudly, and we will soon see that the ones who sound loudly are the elephants. And how do elephants sound loudly? They trumpet. They gleam, they brood, they dance, they rejoice. Rivers, clouds, elephants in rut, woodlands or forests, the ones deprived of their sweethearts, the peacocks, the monkeys. And basically what we've got here is rather lovely fact about Sanskrit, which is that in Sanskrit word order is quite free. This is quite unlike what we have in English. In English, if I say Jim sees John, then through putting Jim first before the verb, I indicate that Jim is the one doing the seeing, and John is the one whom Jim sees. So by saying Jim says John, through that order, I indicate who does what. If I say John sees Jim, then by putting John first, even though I'm not changing anything about the word, I'm just changing its position, I say, because I've put John in front of the verb, I'm now saying John is the subject, the one doing something. So John sees Jim means John is the seer and Jim is the one who's being seen. In Sanskrit, on the other hand, as we just saw, words can express explicitly all this grammatical information. You know, when I have a verb, I see exactly what form, what person it is, you know, that it's third person plural, that it's present and so on. And with all these nouns, I can also say, yes, they are, I can see explicitly their nominative plural forms. So I can see, you know, these are all subjects. These would be the people or the things that do whatever the verb expresses. And poets, Sanskrit poets, use this feature of the Sanskrit language, that because every individual word tells you exactly what it's doing, and you therefore can put it anywhere in a sentence and it will still do the same thing, it will still give you the same meaning, they use this function to basically to paint with words quite a bit. So if you want to focus on something, you put it first. If you want to have a sentence with a bit of, you know, sort of excitement building up, you put the bit that makes everything fall into place last. You can put adjectives and nouns right together, or you can keep them apart for all sorts of purposes. And this is, you know, this is not about grammar. This is about style, and it's style that makes a poet or a poem a poem. And so what we've got here is, you know, this list of verbs that first of all will seem a little confusing. And then we've got this list of nouns, which basically solves lots of puzzles, all these mini puzzles from the first line, namely the question, you know, who is flowing? Who is raining? All these little puzzles are solved one by one when we go through the second line. And these subjects, these nouns in the nominative, they all basically are lined up in exactly the same order as the verbs. So in the end, what we need to do is translate this as the rivers flow, the clouds rain, the elephants in rut trumpet. Now you see why I want to translate this as trumpet rather than just neutrally as sound loudly. But of course we can just translate it as sound loudly. It's clear from the context what sound this would be. The ends of the forest regions, the forest, they gleam because now, you know, all the dust has been washed away by the rain, and the raindrops on all the leaves reflect the sunlight, and so they just glisten, they're lush. The priya vihinach, so the ones who are deprived of their sweethearts, they brood, just like Rama is doing right now. The śikhariṇī, the peacocks, they dance. And so, I mean, I would say, you know, they strut. That is what the peacock, you know, moving looks like to me. But the movement of the peacocks is here interpreted as dancing, which I would say is an activity that you do when you're happy. And so the movement of the peacocks is interpreted as an indication that, you know, because of the rain that has arrived, because of the rainy season that is here, the peacocks are now moving happily, so they're dancing. And finally, the jump goers, the monkeys, they rejoice. You know, their entire habitat is now lush with life. Life has returned. Everything that has been put on hold because of the lack of water or because of the oppressive heat has now been made friendly for life again. And so the rivers flow, the clouds rain, the elephants in rut trumpet, the forests gleam, those deprived of their sweetheart brood, the peacocks dance, the monkeys rejoice. what we're here doing is, you know, making this into a grammatically correct English sentence. But because of the, you know, facts about English that I just explained to you, or that I just tried to sort of outline to you, we can't do what Sanskrit does, which is, you know, paint with words. You've just got all these actions, and then you've got all these actors who are involved in these actions, and it all together forms one lovely big picture of basically of happiness. This is something we can try to emulate in English, but we definitely can't do it with the same means that Sanskrit is doing here. And as I say, this is a verse, so this is not prose literature, this is in verse. This is, the meter is the so-called śikhariṇī. And I'll say in another video, I'll say more about meters, how you can identify what meter a text is in, and also the tunes that go with each of these meters. And so I'd like to just briefly show you what this would be like when it is, you know, I want to say performed properly. I don't know whether I can perform properly, but I can at least try to show you this association of a particular meter with a particular tune or melody. And basically this is Vahanti varshanti nadanti bhanti dhyayanti nirtyanti samashvasanti nadyo khanna mataka javanantach priya vihinach shikinach plavangach. And you can tell I made a bit of a mistake here. This is a short syllable. So nadyo khanna mataka javanantach priya vihinach shikinach plavangach. Right, that was one Sanskrit verse. I took a little longer to just outline all the little bits. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, I would love for you to tell me if there's something that you would like to see differently, something shorter, something with more details, something with different kinds of information. Please let me know. And I promise that I will back in definitely less than 4 months' time for the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.